Premier, Oscar Mabuyane, has outlined the province's vision for the 7th administration, delivering his State of the Province address in Lusikisiki just earlier today. Our reporter, Sipha Kema, has been following the story. And Sipha, this was an interview you promised us when we spoke to you just earlier, a conversation with the MEC for Education in the province.
Well, absolutely, Michelle. Well, we're still here in Dabankulu, where the Premier had delivered his speech. I think also it's very important to mention that this is the first time that the opening of legislature has been done outside the capital of the Eastern Cape, the administration capital, that is Bisho. And Speaker of Legislature Helen Souls August says that the reason for this is to take the Parliament or the legislature to the people, to reignite people's involvement in governance, Michelle. Now, bringing in the MEC of Education, Fundile Gade. Mr. Gade, we know, this particular address just rather schemed over the Department of Education, but it was mentioned quite a lot in February 2024. I mean, your department is one of the important ones in the Eastern Cape. I think the first thing we should talk about is, access to education for everyone, including rural communities. That was one of the top priorities on the list.
Yes, the Premier has outlined the foundations for learning today quite profoundly, because we understand that generally as a nation we have got a crisis of kids that could not read and write in terms of the research that has been made in 2019 by TIMSS, the international standard. Now we then have gone back to as a drawing board, as a province, to say what is it that the system must be able to respond to. And hence we have been able to consolidate our plans around the foundations for learning, reintroduction of the infrastructure on ECD, professionalizing the ECD, but equally make sure that there is a deliberate effort in bringing the families into the fore so that they can be able to bring back their kids back into the province, but looking closely on how do we deal with the issue of access so that you can be able to guarantee the system in terms of numbers.
Now, MEC, when we talk about access, we're talking about being able to also get to school. And we know that one of the topical discussions around that would be scholar transport. And I do believe the Premier had said that moving it from transport and saying that it falls under education and to find a solution to that. Are we going to see problems again in the near future? I mean, we've been seeing problems over the years. What is the main issue behind scholar transport?
The major issue in the scholar transport in the past has been the demand that is surpassing the supply. We have got a number of kids that are more in need of transport than the fiscus of the province can afford. The second aspect is the issue of the roads that were not there at some time, which of course the Ministry of Transport have responded to. Now we are looking very closely on what could be the other alternative way outs, as you would hear him mentioning that, for example, in Sarabatman, you have got 17 boarding schools there that are underutilized. So you need to aggressively take kids outside of the farm dwelling areas in Sarabatman so that you can then enroll them in the boarding facilities that we have in Sarabatman, to be precisely, as a broader strategy in dealing with it.
All right, thank you so much, MEC of Education, Fundile Gade. Michelle, telling us about how they're looking to resolve the issue of scholar transport. When you talk about access to education, it's not just about getting the education, but how do they get there? Because as a rural province, the Eastern Cape has issues of distance between schools, where we find there are still some children who have to walk kilometers to their nearest school from their villages. So that bridge between access as well as his transport is one that they're looking to resolve. Now we're also going to bring in the UDM here for a chance to actually comment as well on the announcement and the address made by the Premier. The Premier touched on agriculture, which is one of the main contributors to the economy in the Eastern Cape. He touched on the issues of the economy itself. What does the UDM have to say about the plans that he says he has in place to restore the economy, to bring job opportunities in the province?
Oh, thank you for having me. Thina si-UDM we have noted the presentation ka-Premier and sayamkela ngohlobo abeka ngalo, but having said that siyanotha into yoba zikhona izinto ezininzi that he failed to cover, in particular kule nto uyireyzayo yento ye-agriculture. Apha sine-resources, apha sinamalwandle, sinento zonke, which is the part of tourism. Ebesicinga into yoba uzawuthatsha nge-action plan ethi yintoni eyenziwayo in terms of uadressa le nto yoba imisebenzi yakheke, we alleviate poverty, we address the question of unemployment. Asivanga ke when it comes to specification, it's just a question of a promise. Sibudinwa ke ngulo mcimbi wezithembiso zokokuba kwenziwe izinto kumane kusithwa sakwenza oku noku. Umzekelo kwesibini siyaqaphela nakule nto ebethetha ngayo yento ye-mining. I-initiative kaHolomisa leyo president we-UDM ekudala ekhononda ngayo into yoba aba bantu basebenza as mine, they must be taken on board and be considered in terms of the shortfalls ne-problems ezi bahlangabezana nazo. Ndizama ukuthi ke ngamanye amaxesha siyayi-appreciate i-statement sakhe, kodwa siyayiqaphela i-Eastern Cape yona ndawo ine-lot of unemployment ne-poverty. Kule nto ayikhavarisheleyo uPremier njengoba besenditshilo, akayikhavarishi le nto isincedisayo. Umzekelo apha i-agriculture yenye yezinto esincedisayo in terms of ukuncedisana noluntu ukuze abantu ngokokulima indlala izawutsho ingabikho. Ayikho ke ngoku i-action plan athetha ngayo ethi siza kwenza ngohlobo. Siyinothile nento ethu umzekelo ureyise into ezininzi apha, i-issue yaselambas. Kudala ireyizwa every time esenza i-presentation ne-speech iyavezwa loo nto. Nalo mcimbi wesibhedlele sasesiphethu uyivezile. Siyayi-appreciate into kwakhiwa kwesibhedlele, kodwa kwesa sibhedlele azikho ii-tools of trade zokwenza into abantu bakwazi ukuthi bancedakale.
All right, so thank you so much, sir. That's a reaction from the UDM there, Michelle, of course. Just to summarize just a part of what he was saying, which is very important, Michelle, making mention that, we hear the rhetoric, we hear the promises being made on those critical issues affecting the Eastern Cape, the service delivery, the economic plan, but he says there is no action, the actual action plan to say how exactly are they going to tackle the issues facing the province, such as the high unemployment rate. The Eastern Cape has actually the highest unemployment rate in the country. How are they going to bring the job opportunities within the Eastern Cape? Yes, of course, mentioning and highlighting how the VW, how many jobs VW will be bringing in the next quarter. But however, there's that issue of Mercedes-Benz that was shedding jobs as well, also having Stellantis coming into the province, promising thousands of jobs there as well. But what the UDM is saying is that there is no action plan, just promises and making mention of acknowledgement of those promises that were made by the Premier in the 2024 February SOPA address, as well as in the opening of the legislature here today. Now, also, I just wanted to actually bring in the EFF to hear what their reaction would be to what was said, especially when it comes to the economic recovery plan that was said by the Premier of the Eastern Cape. Now, we did try to speak to the MEC of Economic Development just to find out how exactly, they're going to look into fixing that issue, because it is a major problem for the Eastern Cape having an inactive economy. But just to see, I think he is still held up here, Michelle. We were going to talk to him from the EFF. But for now, let's go for a quick ad break and more news coming after this.